Our final speakers worked at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune since 1999, covering the New Orleans Saints, the NBA, and horse racing. A graduate of Louisville, he has collected several awards, including the Louisiana Sports Writers Association Story of the Year 3 times. He's also written a book, Tales from the Saints Sidelines. The Saints, of course, play at Houston this coming Sunday at noon. Please give a warm Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation Quarterback Club welcome to Jeff Duncan. Jeff.
I want to thank Kim, like everybody else, for the invitation to come out today. And unlike Gordy, I picked a good week to come. Bye week for the Saints. No loss. No quarterback records for the opposing team, and no one's been fired yet, as far as I know. Jolon Dunbar, I think, got cut this week. Obviously, Houston this week, that's going to be a tough assignment. It looked easy for the Saints a few weeks ago, but like everything in the NFL, things turn around quickly, and suddenly Houston's now tied for first. And, of course, they have one of the best defenses in the league, led by, I think, the best football player in the league in J.J. Watt. Zach Streif's going to have his work cut out for him, along with everybody else on that line, because he's an incredible player. The good news for the Saints, they're 4-6 right now, which is not good news, but there's so much parity in the league that they're only 2 games out of second place in the NFC South and 2 games out of the wild card, which is amazing at 4-6. But the bad news is they're only 1 game away from being the worst in the entire NFC. That's how much everybody's grouped together right now. And I think Sean Payton and his staff have spent this bye week self-scouting and trying to determine what they need to fix internally. Their biggest issues right now are their defensive side of the ball. We all know they had to make a change at coordinator. I don't think Sean Payton wanted to do that at all. It's not the MO for Mickey Loomis or Sean to make midseason changes, but I think things have just gotten so bad on that side of the ball, and that performance against Washington was so bad, they felt like they had no other recourse. And now Dennis Allen will be taking over the defense. He's very familiar with Sean Payton, coached on his staff before, knows what Sean wants. And I think they're going to try and fix that side of the ball internally. Personnel is what it is. They've got to just clean the thing up. They're not that bad on defense, the way they've been playing. They're just really struggling, I think, with some of the organizational aspects of the coordination of the defense, and I think ultimately that's why Rob was let go. I think Sean Payton was very patient with him, and I think he just reached the end of his rope, frankly. And so, look, I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the year. They've got 6 games left. They could lose any of those games. They could win any of those games. We've seen this team go up and down all year long. They're certainly, I think, capable of winning this week in Houston, but Houston is kind of revived right now. So J.J. Watt, I mentioned him earlier, leads the league in sacks, 11.5 sacks, 33 quarterback hits. That's an incredible number. I mean, the Saints leader is Cam Jordan, he has 13. The second closest guy in the league has 20. So we're talking about a phenomenal talent, and I'm sure Sean Payton, one of his strengths as coordinator is taking his protection scheme and trying to take a guy out. It's going to be really interesting to watch that this week. And the other thing I would tell you to watch is third down. When the Saints have the ball, the Saints are number 1 in the league on third down offense, converting about 47% of their third downs, mainly due to Drew Brees and what he does under center, getting in the right play. Sean relies on him to get them in the right play on third down. The Texans, conversely, defensively lead the league in third down, allowing 26% conversion rate. So I think that's going to be a critical factor in this game. And then going forward, who knows what's going to happen with this team. I think they need to get a win, kind of get some confidence back, especially defensively. And this is the week maybe to do it. Houston's very limited offensively other than Hopkins, their wide receiver. We know Alfred Blue is a running back from LSU. He's a solid player, but this is a team that wins with its defense and special teams. Brian Hoyer is going to be back. He's past concussion protocol, so he will be under center. And I'm not sure that's a good thing for the Saints, because I think Hoyer beat them last year in Cleveland and is, I think, somewhat of an underrated quarterback. Otherwise, the biggest story going on in the Saints camp, like everything else that we've been feeling up here, is a lot of speculation about what could happen with Sean Payton in the offseason. I don't think these reports leak out by accident. The people that are reporting a lot of this stuff are very good reporters, colleagues of mine, Adam Schefter, who are very wired into the agent and coaching community. And I think sometimes these things get out there for a reason. I'm not saying Sean Payton's going to leave, but I don't think that information is erroneous. I think it's out there for a reason, maybe strategically to help him leverage some other situation. But I think Sean's been here 10 years, been very successful, and his mentor is Bill Parcells. And Bill stayed about 3 years for most of his jobs. And I think there's a part of that in Sean that might be interested in seeing maybe another challenge. I know he's been worried about the ownership situation, which I think is still ongoing. And I think that's definitely a concern in the back of his mind, because I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen with that eventually. The plan, of course, is to give the team over to Gail Benson, and it'll be run by a board of directors, board of trustees. But there's still a lot of water to go under that bridge before we get to that point. I'll open up to questions. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them before everybody has to get out of here. Yes, sir.
With the bye week, what are the injury statuses of some of the key players?
Well, that's good news, actually. They're going to be just about completely healthy for this game. Donnell Ellerby we'll find out about tomorrow. He's a key player in their linebacker core. Keenan Lewis isn't right. I mean, he's going to play banged up the rest of the year. He's going to probably have to have surgery after the season. He's playing, I think, about 80% right now. And you can tell he's not the same player. In the NFL, I mean, just about like any sport, cornerback, you lose your wheels. That's all it takes. And I think right now he's gutting it out. He's one of the real warriors on that team. They've got to get back to full strength defensively, to have a chance, because they got so many young guys in the front seven. And they knew this was going to be a transition year, and they knew when they bit the bullet and cut Junior Gillette that they were going to have trouble generating pass rush, and they have. And it really, all the coaches up here know, I mean, it starts up front with their defense. Until they can get a reliable pass rush and get stronger in their front seven, it doesn't matter who they have on the back end, especially in the NFL, such a pass-driven league, quarterback-driven league. These guys will pick you apart. Even a guy like Kirk Cousins, can pick you apart. They've got a good secondary, the Saints do, by and large, but they can only hold up for so long. Well, Terran Armstead will play, but he's not healthy relative term, right? He's going to be banged up, I think, for the rest of the year, too. These guys are going to have to play through it. I mean, part of the problem in the NFL is we've got limited roster numbers, 53 men, and that's something I'd like to see the NFL change down the road. Expand the rosters. The owners would have to approve that, but right now it's ridiculous that you have 45 players, on game day. There's just not enough depth there. I'd like to see them do that to allow, a little more flexibility for the coaching staff going into games. The offensive line, basically, there's 6 or 7 guys active on game day. You have a couple injuries there, you end up Terran Armstead playing with one leg, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, assuming the Saints have a bad season and get a very high draft pick, who do you think they should go for? Who's out there? And if they would trade up to get 1 or 2 draft pick, is there some superstar out there? And the second part of the question is what you said earlier about the Benson trusteeship along with Gail. Assuming, because Gail has no children, is there any other model in the NFL besides the Green Bay Packers where you don't have the one owner type calling the shots, or all 32 or 31 teams basically just are 31 billionaires? Even if Gail got it, once all the dust is settled and she appoints this board of trustees, is there any other team in the NFL that has a similar management model? Thank you.
Okay, well, let me answer that last one because it's fresh on my mind. Well, the NFL requires you to appoint an individual owner that has basically the voting power. So even if they did run it with a board, which a lot of teams have done, the Tennessee Titans did that. After Bud Adams passed away, it was run by a board of trustees, including a lot of family members. Same thing happened in Buffalo with Ralph Wilson. His family members it was run by a board, but there always has to be one controlling vote or controlling owner, and that would be Gail, according to the succession plan that's in place right now. But you're right, it would be a very unique situation. And I think something that I think needs a little public focus, to be honest with you, because I think the Saints get so much public subsidies from all of us here, all the taxpayers. They're the closest thing in the NFL to the Green Bay Packers. There's so much money, roughly $25 million a year, is being supplemented from Louisiana taxpayers. I'd like to see them be a little more open. Tom Benson would probably disagree with me, but I do think that that's something that we need to look at down the road. I've heard a lot of stories about what could happen after Gail releases ownership, assuming she gets it. And I don't think they've even thought it all the way through, but they've even talked about, having charities run it or having charitable organizations. I've even heard a crazy rumor about the Archdiocese of New Orleans getting the team, which would be interesting. But I think there's a lot of stuff still undetermined, and I think it's something that nobody knows in the Saints organization because we have to let the legal process play out. Football-wise, in the draft, I think they've got to get a pass rusher. They've got to get some impact player in the front seven. There's a lot of good young players. I mean, every year there's always going to be that kind of talent coming out. Last year they had an opportunity, and I don't think we've reported this, but they had an opportunity to trade up to the number 6 spot in the draft. The New York Jets took Leonard Williams from Southern Cal, who a lot of people thought was the best player in the draft and is playing out that way. And they turned down the offer to trade up and get him, and I think they regret that now because the draft didn't work out the way they wanted. I think they were ready to take Danny Shelton at number 13, and right before him, the Browns took him, and I think really kind of, ruined the entire draft. And they took the best player on the board, Andres Pete. But looking back on it, that was a time when they maybe should have traded up, and I've criticized them in the past for being impulsive on draft day and trading up for certain players, Cedric Ellis, Mark Ingram. They did it for Brandon Cooks. And I think this was one time they probably needed to do it and didn't, and regret it, because I think Leonard Williams, if you could have had Leonard Williams in the middle of your defensive line backed by Stephon Anthony, you'd feel a lot better about that defense going forward. And they were going to have to give up, I think, the extra third and the extra fifth that they had in this draft. I think it would have been worth it. But, it's easy for me to say I wasn't in the draft room, and hindsight's 20/20 right now. But that would have been a nice draft to start your defense with. Yes, sir.
Following up to that, is Andrews Pete then a flop as a draft pick, or is it still too early, especially for an O-lineman?
Yeah, it's too early. I mean, the kid's very young. He came out early as a junior, so he's young to begin with. And offensive linemen take a while to develop, and in particular, I think Pete is a developmental prospect. I mean, we saw what happened with John Stinchcomb when he came in. I know he was only a second-round pick, but it took him a couple of years. Zach Streif didn't play at all his first couple of years, and the same thing happened with Jermon Bushrod. Did not play at all. They were groomed behind starters, and then they developed. And we've seen it around the league. Even players drafted higher than Andres Pete. Luke Jokel, Eric Fisher, these guys were first and third, number 1, number 3 overall picks that really took a long time to develop and are still developing as starters in the league. I just think that's the way the league's going. It's very difficult to find a lineman come in and dominate at that level. It's a very hard position to come in at the NFL level. So I don't think he's a bust at all, but I think the jury's out. I don't think you can say he's a bona fide hit either. But he does have the skills. If you see him play, he's got the strongest punch on any of the linemen on the team. Long reach. You got a lot of clay to mold right there, and I think he'll end up being a solid player. So he wouldn't be necessarily a bust, if that makes any sense.
Hey Jeff, what do you think they're going to do with Breeze and his $30 million against the cap next year?
Well, they're going to rework Breeze's deal. They've got to rework it. Mickey, I think, waited to rework it because it's in the best interest of the organization now to rework it. They can't operate under that cap figure next year. It's onerous, and I'm sure that Mickey and Tom Condon, Breeze's agent, will have conversations right after the season. They've got to rework it because they've got to get the cap room. They're already over the cap to begin with, so that's the area they're going to attack. And I think this year, in a lot of ways, they had to kind of bite the bullet cap-wise. They stuck to their guns. Mickey stuck to it to not rework Drew's deal because that was just going to keep pushing cap money forward. But what will be interesting, Chris, is how far out they extend Drew's deal, because it will require an extension, most likely, when they rework it to make it cap friendly. It'll be interesting to see how many years out they put Drew's deal. I would guess it would be 3, but it'll be interesting to see if maybe it's shorter, a little window into what they're doing. I mean, they drafted Garrett Grayson last year, presumably to be the heir apparent. He will be an unrestricted free agent at that exact window if they extend Drew out 3 years, so maybe that's the plan. That's what I would think, at least. Any other questions?
If Peyton does leave, do you think Brees will stay, or will he want to leave?
Yeah, they married together, or whatever.
Right.
No, I think he would stay. I really do. I think, and I don't think Sean will leave unless it's the perfect opportunity. I mean, I think he's very happy here. I think a big part of his decision will be where if he does have that opportunity, would be what's the ownership stability like? Can they win? And are they ready to win now? Sean wants to win now. He wants to win now every year. And the other thing that's very important to him is his son Connor as a quarterback in the Dallas area. I know for a fact that he goes back to watch him play every game, and that's important to him. He doesn't want to be too far away. Now, corporate jets, and Sean's making $8 million a year. He can afford to, hop on a plane. But I think that's something to factor in. And look, and if the Texas job were to open, I wouldn't rule out something like that. A big major college. I know there's some appeal for Sean in that, but it has to be the right spot. And as far as Drew's concerned, I think Drew will retire here. I'll be shocked if he, of course, people in Denver were probably saying that about Peyton Manning, a couple of weeks ago too. You never know. Any more? Okay, great. Thank you all very much for having me. Appreciate it.